But what else can relationship stress affect? It could cause you to say things that you may not really mean. And it could be towards, again, anybody, but maybe you didn't mean to say those really mean things. Maybe you just weren't thinking and you blurted them out, but it's not how you really feel. Maybe you try to say the meanest thing because you're not feeling well. And so these thoughts, these intrusive thoughts start taking over, and then you're left with feeling guilt after. So, aside from saying these mean things or hurtful things, you then start feeling guilty because you truly didn't mean them. So, this has been a way that you've learned to deal with stress in your life. This isn't how everyone deals with stress or certain types of stress. Some people don't go around battering people with negative words or thoughts or whatnot, comments, but maybe you do. And this is something that's learned from a really long time ago. And I'm not making an excuse, and I'm not saying there's always an excuse for things. I'm trying to give you a reason, a thought where you can think how this stemmed as part of your response to stress in your life. This is something that's been embedded in you, something that you've seen, you've learned, you've done multiple times. And if you think about this, and I can apply this to myself, like when I think about this, I think back to my own self. First of all, when did this characteristic come through? What could be contributing factors? Is it a good characteristics that I want to keep, or is it not? Who am I really, and how can I heal this? So these are 5 things that I can consider when this has happened, for me to really evaluate, like, where is this coming from? Because these words, they cut deeper than anything else. The words that you say can leave a really lasting impression mentally on somebody. So it's really important that the words that we use towards someone doesn't affect them while we're stressed out and we're taking out our stress on them. These words are affecting them. So the words, the tone, the way you deliver it, all has an effect on someone, because it's also the way that other individual is interpreting what you're saying as well. Not always the way you're delivering it. It's also their state of mind as well. So as we keep talking about this, you can see how many moving parts are to this relationship burnout, relationship stress topic, where although it is factors of yourself, there are other factors externally outside of you that are outside of your control. But it's about how you are, how you deal with this, which then can perhaps make the other person follow suit. And then that's where we have a whole remedy to how things change, how things can persist, and how things are. So, really looking at how your stress makes you talk, makes you think. The words that come through your mouth are thoughts that you have that were coming from your thinking, that come from your thinking. So, this is truly something that's deeply embedded in the way you're processing stress, the way your perspective is, your outward look on how things affect you. Healing some of those things, redesigning the way you react to stress is really critical. And what do I mean by that? Well, I always just use myself as an example because why not? I experienced it, I can share, and then I can give you some honest feedback from it. When I was in a stressed out mode, I wasn't communicating that very well, suppressed that very well. And it did affect my relationships among me. I was highly sensitive to comments. I was not very patient. I lost grip on my own self. I was feeling all these body sensations. I was throwing things out of proportion. I was giving attention to the wrong things. So now hearing all that and where I am now, which took a lot of work, by the way, I don't think it's ever ends, to be honest. I think self improvement and self discovery is a lifelong journey, and you can only get better at it if you try, like anything, practice. So, when I was feeling this way, when I was in this state of mind, of course, your thoughts are negative. Of course, the words that you use, they're not that not that ideal. And the thoughts that come from your words send that chemical signal through your body. So when you say to yourself, this job is killing me, really killing you? But then when you hear the word kill, your body goes into, oh, I know what that word means. Kill? I need to go into protective mode. There goes your stress levels. There goes your body going to the fight and flight mode. And then there goes your nervous system, all amplified because you use the word kill. And that word sends that signal to your body because that word creates a thought in your mind. And your mind doesn't know if you're feeding it right or wrong, good or bad, negative or positive words. It just knows what you feed it. So when you feed it words like that, when you say this job, I'm dreaded by this job, the people in that job are horrific, my relationship is a disaster, my family members are psychotic, they're crazy, they're deathly annoying. If you hear the context of these words and what the meaning is behind them, even saying them right now, I can feel sensations in my body because I'm so in tune with how they affect me. These are sending signals to our body, which then keeps us in an elevated stress mode. And so when you're in a relationship and these kinds of things are said outside of the mental aspect and trauma it can leave upon somebody or impress upon someone, the physical sensations also come with it for the individual who's saying it and also the individual that's interpreting it. So your words are so critical. Your way of communication, and this is something that's really important to note when we're stressed out, because when we're stressed, like I said, we can just blurt out anything. You almost lose control over your thoughts and what comes out of your mouth, and you just allow things to free flow. And although that's good sometimes for certain circumstances, unfortunately, sometimes in relationships, it can really leave a detrimental scar on both individuals. So, really being aware of your language pattern, of the words you use, the tone that you have, your delivery, and really think about, is this the best way I can say this? As opposed to saying, you're just killing me, rather, you can say, what you're doing right now is really hurting my feelings and making me feel very uncomfortable. Sounds so different, doesn't it? Just even myself saying it makes it utterly different in my own mind and the way somebody perceives it when they're hearing it. So, when you're stressed, language is incredibly important. Your physical and your verbal language, super important. And stress can also allow us to make bad decisions, irrational decisions. And unfortunately, sometimes they result in doing the worst things that may not withstand your moral code of ethics, or maybe you never thought you were capable of. But stress really can push us to that when we're in this chronic state. It can push us to the limit, make us do things that maybe we never thought we could do. So in a romantic relationship, you may cheat because you don't feel like your relationship is giving you what you need. You're stressed out, you're disappointed, your needs aren't being met. But rather than going to this state where it's morally wrong for whatever you believe in, and even if you didn't believe it was wrong, you know that your decisions are affecting another individual. Whatever decision you make affects that individual. So unless there's a an agreement between both of you that you mutually agree on something, and this goes for friendships and any types of relationships, as long as there's a mutual agreement, then that's fine. But when there isn't an agreement, when you know that there could be detrimental effects from your decisions, then that's when problems will not only arise, but they would get even worse. And the problem that would get even worse, aside from between the two individuals, is the relationship that you have with yourself. Because then you're ridden with guilt. You have these persistent thoughts of almost like cynical, secret kind of thoughts. It's just compounds into a really negative solution or a negative pot of just bad stuff. And so stress can really take away from our good decision making skills because our minds are so convoluted with the thoughts of how to problem solve, the I wish statements, I want, if only. And when you're constantly thinking in that mannerism, you're kind of left, you have everything left up in the air. Like you can't make concrete decisions that are good decisions for you. You're not thinking rationally, you're thinking irrationally, and you're thinking based on your emotions and not logically. And we do make emotional decisions. Most people make decisions based on their emotions, that gut intuition, that instinct. And I think that's always good. But when you know that you're making a decision and there's going to be ramifications from it, you have to outweigh what's worse. And sometimes the ramifications aren't as bad. So you choose that. But when you're stressed, you could be making bad decisions. So this is where it's really ideal that you consult someone or even consult yourself on how your decision or your line of thinking could play out. And you could do this with your own self. You could literally get yourself out a pen and paper, write out your thought on your decision, write out all the pros and cons of your decision, and really see for your own self. It's there. You can't contest it. See for your own self if it's worth it. But when you're stressed out, things don't function the same way. Your cognitive functions aren't working because you're in that heightened mode. So you're not making the best decisions. So, that being said, really evaluating your thoughts when you are needing to make a decision. Is this the right decision, really? And put a lot of stock behind that because decisions shouldn't just be made on a whim. I mean, some should be made spontaneously, of course, where it fits that. But when it's really important decisions, when it's life changing, life altering, for aside from just yourself, the other individual, because we know all relationships takes two to tango, then that's when something that's an indicator that I would seek advice, seek a third party, someone that has a listening ear to really bounce off the ideas and really think about the stress that's causing you to make these kinds of decisions and if there's any remedies behind it. And sometimes we have to, like I said, step outside of ourselves in order to really see things objectively. And that's really difficult for people to do. It's difficult for anyone to do, to be objective, because a lot of us are just emotionally invested in all of these relationships that we have. So it's really difficult for individuals to be objective with themselves and with their relationships because they're so heavily invested emotionally. But that's why there's great people like therapists, like counselors, just there to hold space for individuals who need to work out these critical issues in their life to really make the best decision for their lives. So the outcome is towards an outcome that you want. And so you need to know what you want in order to gain that outcome.